Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today is Christmas Day and I created a birthday card. I'm really excited about this card because, well, it has been a while since I made like a birthday card, um, but also just created a card. So today I'm really excited to share this card with you. When I wanted to create today, I wanted to use a product or a stamp set that I hadn't used in a while or not even ever. And I realized that this stamp set has been in my stash for a while now and I never featured it. And I truly adore this set. I love sets with balloons in it. I think it's just fantastic to use on celebration cards and definitely for birthday cards. So today I'm featuring the two dogs that are hanging uh, on some balloons here. And I actually wanted to show you a color palette that might seem a bit strange. I'm using like a really soft mossy green and then some pinks and a few browns, which is not necessarily like the brown combination is not necessarily a combination that you think of using on balloons, I guess. Like in my case, that's the case. Just the thing or the thought process behind this was that I wanted to create a birthday card, but as we thought about it a lot, it's like really hard to make masculine cards. And I was like, masculine cards do not mean that you cannot use pink. So I went for this really soft combination that I think I used in the past, not necessarily these colors or in a birthday kind of card. But I think I used it last year and I started creating it and I was like, well, if I keep it to the muted tones, but I have this pink and green, it is really easy to create a feminine card or a masculine card. You just have pinks and greens in the colors on your card, but depending on what you're going to do with your background, you can create like a pink background here or a green one or even a brown one. I went for the green, and so I think in the end it turned out to be more masculine, which was what I needed. I needed well, a birthday card for a friend, um, and so I went for the green. But I think that you can definitely make a pink or a brown card as well, and then you will have a completely different end result, just depending on the three colors or maybe more colors that you're using on these balloons. You can differentiate in the background color that you're using, and it can be just completely different from each other by just changing that background color. So I have this E33, E53, E51 combination in the balloons. I'm also going to use that on the dogs. One will have a few spots and the other one will eventually also be with like browns. The same combination. You can definitely change it up, make it a darker dog, make a gray dog if you want to. Anything is possible, but I really wanted to keep it simple as always. So that's why I stuck with these combinations. I also try to add my shadows each time on the right side of each part of the images, just to make it easier on me, and then later on my background I will also keep that in mind for the blending. So I'm just working on my final image here. I'm coloring from darkest to lightest, going over it where I think I need to, and then I'm going to use the matching dies to cut them out. So I'm going to adhere these matching dies using some purple tape. From time to time I check whether the die isn't shifted a tiny bit, and it was the case with this one, so I tried to adhere it already a bit more towards the other side, but then while die cutting apparently it was also, well, a bit more towards the top than I wanted to be. Well, it's like that, it's not die cut in the image, so that's the most important thing. So first I am going to just lay everything out whether it's still working, and then I'm going to take my tiny book here. I have like this book, and well, it's kind of, you already saw it in the past. I don't show it often, but whenever I'm looking for a specific combination, I have my distress inks in this book. So there we go. And I just laid the balloons next to all of the greens that I have and figured out that forest moss and peel paint were going to be the best greens to match with my balloons. So I decided to mostly ink blend heavily on the edges of this shape of my favorite stencil, the watercolor wash stencil. I of course went all the way. I don't have any white area at the end, and I decided to add the darker color on the right side as I did with the shadowing on the images. So that was a tiny hint with the shadowing of the critters and the balloons that I thought, well, maybe I can do exactly the same with the ink blending in the background. So I did that, and then I moved my images aside to be able to splatter a tiny bit of this darkest color on top of the shape. I'm not going overboard with the amount of water just because Transotype Perfect Coloring Paper, the paper that I like using, is not really a fan of water. So whenever I'm splattering, I barely do that just to prevent the paper from, well, being ruined. But from time to time I do it, and then I just try to keep the water minimal. So with my background ready here, I decided to add my sentiment. And after laying everything out again, I knew exactly where to place it. I'm going to stamp it out with the same ink as I use for the images, being the extreme black ink from My Favorite Things. And after stamping it a few times, I had this crisp impression, so I could add all of the images as well. I'm using some thin foam squares here to have a tiny bit of dimension. And then I am going to add this panel to a card base. Now normally I am a fan of adding glossy accents to balloons, but in this case I wanted to add a few white Jelly Roll pen details, and from time to time, and mostly all of the time, I think it's like the white Jelly Roll pen cannot handle the glossy accents afterwards. Plus I made this card today and I wanted to share it today, taking pictures today, and so I needed it to be finished. Therefore I just did the white Jelly Roll pen. Nothing needed to dry, and I could immediately take pictures, share it on Instagram, make the blog post and the video. Now normally I try to do like the sharing on Instagram after everything is done, but I really wanted to share it today still, so that's why I did it a bit in another order. There, I added the white Jelly Roll pen details to the green balloons. You can add details to all of them if you want to, definitely. I also went over the eyes and the noses with a black pen, just because it was kind of muted. And so I went back in there with the white Jelly Roll pen as well on the eyes, just a dot, and then the nose as it was intended by the stamp set itself. And that is going to be my card actually. It was a really quick, fun card to make. I love how it turned out with the green. It's really masculine. I do want to recreate this with the pink, but I probably will not share it because it's exactly the same, but then with pink in the background. Thank you so much for being here and for supporting me. I hope you already had an amazing Christmas Eve, having a fantastic Christmas Day, and more celebrations going. Thank you again, and I'll be back soon with some new crafty inspiration. Bye!